Today we are going to be talking about how England leads the way. As a quick refresher, this is where England is, and let's talk about why they are the ones who really start industrializing of all the places in the world. For one, Great Britain is known as a geographic winner, which means that it doesn't mean that the people were smarter than anywhere else in the world, but what they did have is they were sitting on a lot of coal and iron, and they also had a lot of raw materials coming into their country, for instance, wool and cotton. And if you remember, we said that textiles are the first industry that really industrialized. They also had a lot of laborers, which are people who are now leaving the fields because they don't need as many people in the fields because machines are taking over. And so people are moving into cities and they're looking to work, and there are people with money to invest, and money to invest is called capital. And so that's one vocabulary word that I'm going to want you to know is the word capital. And it's when you have extra money to invest into a product or something and you want that money to make more money. All right. So again, let's just talk about the textile industry. What will happen is that machines will allow people to make cloth much faster. Machines are very large and expensive, so they're going to slowly stop being operated at home, and eventually they're going to have a dedicated space where these machines will be operated, and that will be known as a factory. You will have people named spinners and weavers who will work in long sheds, and that essentially becomes the first factory. And here's kind of a picture of that where this person's using a machine to knit, and this person's using a machine to do something, and this person's using a machine to do something. And all of those things that are happening are eventually making your first cloths and fabrics and things like that. Okay, we're going to see revolution in transportation. For instance, that steam engine will be used to power boats, not just railroads. We'll see canals and bridges being built. We'll see the locomotive become a thing that starts transporting goods and people. This is a really cool map because it shows you a map of all the major towns, and the red lines are canals. And over time, what's going to happen is they are going to grow. This is a really good map of what the railroads used to look like in England, and you can see certain little cities are connected. London's down here and it's connected to other major cities, but as time grows you can see that more rail lines will be put in and it'll connect more people, which will move goods and services all over the giant island of Great Britain. So let's look at some of the causes and let's look at some of the effects of essentially industrialization. So one, we're going to see the causes. There were more resources, population growth, there was increased good for demands, the government supported it, there was new inventions, especially in textiles and factories. Now, let's look at some of the effects. We'll start over here. Because there's more stuff and more people, you're going to have more consumers. Because there's a whole lot more product, prices are going to drop. There's going to be an increase of supplies. You're going to see all new economic social changes. We're going to see a revolution in transportation, and eventually we'll start to see a higher demand for goods and services. We'll start to see the first photograph. And this is just an interesting picture to show you in history. This is considered to be one of the first actual photographs ever taken. So again, we start to see these huge advancements in technology. If you think about what your cell phone can do today versus this, but this was magic to these people back then, basically. So this is the first photograph. We again talked about the seed drill. Here's a modern day version of that. Some other inventions you're going to see, the flying shuttle, which helps. All of these will help in the textile industry with the creation of different types of machines to make clothing. This is the cotton gin, and what that will do is it will be an easy way to sort the seeds out of cotton and make cotton fiber much better. The person who invented this is Eli Whitney. If we look at some changes in transportation, you'll start to see the steamboat. We'll start to see pictures of the locomotive. This is a pretty cool map. It just kind of goes to show you that in 1836, this is how long it took to get to certain places from London. So if you were in London and you were trying to get to Liverpool, it used to take you 24 hours, a whole days of travel to get there. By 1850, which isn't that much later in history, they shortened it with the locomotive to 6.5 hours. So that just goes to show you a map of how quickly people start moving around the country. If you think about today, you can go pretty much anywhere in the world in 23 hours or less, I think is the longest flight, might be to Australia. You can get to the continent of Europe in basically what, like 6-7 hours? So it just kind of goes to show how quickly people start traveling during this time. Again, there's a good picture of the steam engine. Oh, look, there's a picture of your first car, the assembly line. So this is all new revolutions in transportation. Communication, there will be some advancements as well. There's a man by the name of Samuel Morse who will invent the telegraph. And the telegraph is a series of dots and beeps that you hear, and then you can transcribe those dots and beeps into words. Alexander Graham Bell will kind of make that irrelevant by 1876 because he'll invent the telephone, and that's you can speak actual words over a telephone line. This is Morse code, and basically what they would do is little dots and dashes would make the transmission of like words. You could do that over the course of like the telegraph. And now I'll show you, let's see, one more here. We eventually start getting the wireless telegraph in 1895. Just think about modern day. We have wireless cell phones and FaceTime, but this is the beginning of those types of things. Probably the most famous Morse code will be the SOS, Save Our Ship, which is 3 short dots like boop, 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 3 long dots, boop, 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 and 3 short dots again, boop, boop, boop. And the most famous probably thing that you guys might know is that as the Titanic was sinking, they were sending out Morse code looking for help, which we know didn't really come.